Good morning, welcome to our Wednesday morning thought for today. Last Wednesday, we took a break from our Wednesday evening Zoom meeting where we would have a prayer meeting. And I know quite a number of folk watched the video that was put up by the Council for Mission in Ireland. And I think it was a great encouragement and wonderful to see all the things that are happening, or some of the things that are happening in this island that we live on. And especially good to reflect upon it on St. Patrick's Day. Our meeting's back on again tonight, 7:30, prayer meeting. And as always, we would encourage you to come along. But I also know that there may be people who don't feel comfortable at prayer meetings but would like prayer. And so I would say to you, if you're in a situation at the moment and you want someone to confidentially pray for you, please get in touch and let us know, and we will lift you up in prayer tonight. We would love to be able to do that for you. We don't know how to pray for some people because we don't know issues unless somebody tells us. And so if you would appreciate prayer tonight, please just get in touch and let us know. And your prayers, your topics will be handled very confidentially. So that's 7:30 tonight on Zoom, and I'm sure the link will go up a little bit later. I want to look this morning at an issue which, if you're a Christian, this may be something which you've experienced or you're maybe experiencing. And it's to do with what Jesus said in response to what was said about him in Mark's Gospel, chapter 6, verses 1-6. In this very short passage, a lot of people are saying a lot of things. Jesus doesn't seem to say, or we don't hear Jesus' voice coming through terribly loudly. He obviously spoke in the synagogue, and that caused a few problems because they'd never heard anything like it, especially not from somebody who'd come from Nazareth, who'd grown up in their midst, who'd run around the streets playing with maybe their own children at some stage, and all of a sudden this person's come back as a rabbi and he's saying things which are such incredible things and doing things which they've heard about that they can't quite take on board. And because of that, that becomes a stumbling block to them. And they take offense at Jesus and they turn their backs on him and they just won't accept him. And in that storm of words and questions that they're asking each other, Jesus almost excuses away their lack of faith. He quotes a proverb. This, we would sometimes say, familiarity breeds contempt. But here Jesus says in verse 4, and Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor, except in his hometown and among his relatives and in his own household. And I think that's very interesting because what we're hearing Jesus saying is sometimes, the hardest place to be accepted as a Christian, if you've lived a life that has been anything but Christian and you come back and all of a sudden you're a Christian and you're in a place where everyone knows you, then they go, hang on, we know you. You can't pull the wool over our eyes. And that's maybe with your friends and those you work with or people that you went to school with and you've grown up with, etc., etc. But Jesus doesn't say it's just with the townspeople. He goes even deeper. He says with your relatives. And he's talking about your family circle. And sometimes being a Christian in a family circle is so very hard, especially when you speak out for Jesus. And I know many people who only came to faith later in life, or maybe for a large part of their life, maybe through their teens and their 20s, maybe even into their 30s, etc. They lived a life that was, well, it could be called far from being a Christian life, where they were doing things that they know themselves were very different from what the Bible teaches. And yet then they come to faith in Jesus and they are changed, they're reformed. And they go back to those people and they start to say things and they live a life which is very different. And people find that very hard to accept. And there are a whole myriad of reasons why that is the case. But then Jesus takes it even deeper. It's almost like these concentric circles that are going closer and closer and closer. Because if you notice, he says he's not without honor except in his hometown. And then he goes on, and among his relatives. And then thirdly, and in his own household. And I know so many families where a husband or a wife has come to faith and the other person, the husband or the wife who hasn't come to faith, has found that so difficult. And of course it's difficult. If somebody you've known and fallen in love with and grown up with, etc., etc., and you know each other so well, and all of a sudden their life has changed because of Jesus, it's going to be very difficult for the other person because this doesn't tally. It's not the same person anymore. I would like to believe it's a better person if they've come to faith, because then they are more considerate towards others and they're more caring, etc. But there should be this sense of that you expect the other person to accept you because, yeah, you've made a change for the better. But it's not always the case, and sometimes homes can get very unhappy. And so we need to be praying for homes and situations where there is maybe one person who has faith and another person who doesn't have that faith, and there's maybe tension because of that. Because that person with faith, according to Jesus, if they speak out saying things for Jesus as a prophet, as speaking God's word into situations, that's a very hard place, and you're not given, we don't want honor there, but you're not given a sense of respect, and you're not treated as you think you should be treated because you're trying to better your life. But all they see is of someone who's, I suppose, a stumbling block, as we thought yesterday. And so we need to be praying for folk in those sort of situations where homes are under pressure because someone has come to faith. And I would ask you to pray for your own family circle, because every family circle has someone who has yet not come to faith in Jesus yet. And so we want to encourage you today to keep going, but to be sensitive and to be prayerful and to be supportive and to be also comforted by Jesus' words, as he told us we're to expect this. This is normal, this is natural. This is what it means to be a believer in a place where you're known almost too well. So I want to give you some sort of encouragement from that today, and to keep going, but to prayerfully support and encourage those around you so that they might see Christ in you and see less of you as someone who's changed, and be attracted to Jesus. So hopefully that makes sense. We continue to follow through this story for the next couple of days. Have a good Wednesday, and maybe we'll see you tonight at our prayer meeting. God bless.